Hello, welcome everybody. Hope you enjoyed the Bible trivia. How many questions did you get right? Which ones kind of threw you off a little bit? Comment below and let me know. Welcome to week 2 of the 5-week course that I put together. You're going to have another introduction. I just wanted to kind of jump in here real quick and let you know that I'm sharing this 5-week evangelism course that I put together on Facebook Live here, on Twitter, and on YouTube for folks to see it. This is something that I'm using as I'm going and visiting different churches and going out and helping churches to evangelize and do outreach in their communities. This is part of the course that I put together that I go and I teach. And so I hope that you're enjoying it. I hope that you're learning something from it. You know, it's really interesting that there's 5 weeks in the course, and I don't even talk about the act of sharing the gospel in terms of sharing the death, burial, resurrection, and the return of Jesus until week 4. And why is that? You would think that that should be like the central focus. Well, I believe sincerely that who you are is just as important as what you know and what you say. In other words, before you go out there evangelizing and preaching the gospel, I think it's really important to know who Christ is in you. And obviously, knowing what to say and everything else kind of comes along with it. But, you know, without really knowing who Christ is and without knowing the different traits that we need to have instilled on the inside of us before we go out there, I think what we say and what we do, if we don't do it in love, if we don't do it for the right reasons, we don't do it in humility, I think it could be done in vain. So I do get into talking about the death, burial, resurrection, and the return of Jesus, but not till week 4. And so it's sort of a slower process. Each lesson is roughly around 30 to 35 minutes long. So I pack in a lot of information in those 30 to 35 minutes. So yeah, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and cue it up. And I hope you enjoy it. Please give me any feedback. Let me know if you've learned anything. I'd really like to hear from you on that too. So thanks again for watching, and here we go. Thanks. Hey, welcome to part 2 of the evangelism course. I hope that you're able to pick up a few things from lesson 1 that you can apply to your everyday walk in terms of evangelism. Let's jump into part 2 and see what the Lord has in store for us today. Here we go. The harvest is great. Lesson 2. Let's take a look at what we have on schedule for today. Here are the 3 segments that we have on schedule for today. Number 1, the harvest is great. Number 2, what role do I play? And number 3, the prayer has been answered. Let's take a look at some interesting statistics from the harvest. As of 2022, there are about 7.8 billion people in the world. Here's something interesting. Many scholars believe that prior to the flood of Noah, while Noah was building the ark, that there would have been approximately 7 to 9 billion people on the planet, mostly because people lived a lot longer and procreated a lot longer. Could there be something to that? Maybe. But let's consider one parallel at least. Noah was building something in preparation for an event that prior to that moment, the world had never seen. In that same way, we are building something in preparation for something the world has never seen. Back then, in Noah's day, it was a great flood, but ultimately, it was judgment. What we're building for is the return of Jesus. And ultimately, with Jesus comes judgment. So what are we building in preparation so they don't have to face that judgment? Well, we're building the kingdom. We're spreading the gospel. We're talking to people about Jesus. We're telling them that there is this great judgment coming, but they could be saved. You know, most people think that the gospel is just Jesus came, he died for our sin, he went to the cross, he died and rose again. But the gospel is incomplete without the return of Jesus.
Without the fact that he is coming back, the gospel's incomplete. This is why it is so important for the church to preach the gospel, not just to rely on the extroverted people in the pews, the ones that are talkative and charismatic, to preach the gospel, but every single member of the body of Christ should identify with the responsibility to preach the gospel. Again, this may mean preaching from a pulpit. It may mean preaching in the streets. It might mean just having one-on-one conversations at work. Either way, it is one of the most important responsibilities that we have as Christians. So let's take a look at the next one. 31% of the world population are professing Christians. But think about this. So that's like a lot, right? But look at what's in parentheses. Of that 31%, 50% are Catholic. Now, my aim is not to throw shade at Catholicism. I have my own personal thoughts of Catholicism. But what I will say is this. I've met many people in the streets while preaching the gospel. When you ask them if they're a Christian, they say, no, I'm a Catholic. So while many people are out there proclaiming to be Catholic and being counted as Christian, many of them are not born again. They have no idea what it means to actually be a Christian. They were just raised in a family that went to church. This happens a lot in Catholicism. Now, I personally believe that there are Catholics who are saved and born again. I really believe that. I've met some of them. But what I'm trying to say is this, that of that 1%, that figure is probably far less because of it. Now, right on the heels of Christianity, Islam, 23% of the world population is Muslim. And this is really alarming. It is estimated that Islam will grow 70% more by 2060, and Christianity will only grow 34% more, making about equal. Islam is the world's fastest growing religion. Now, there's a little bit of a microcosm experienced here in the Metro Detroit area. It's well known that the Metro Detroit area is the second largest Middle Eastern population outside of the Middle East in all of the world. The nature of my job that I do for work has me driving around the city of Detroit all day long in the Metro Detroit area. And what I've witnessed over the last 5 years is alarming. One example is that the largest Christian church, one of the largest, Christian churches in Detroit, in the Detroit area, was recently